Hey everybody, welcome back to Tennis Picks and Bets here on the Mayo Media Network. We're into the quarter-final stage of the year's first slam. We've got some familiar names lurking in both draws. Just 4 matches each night now for the next 2 nights, and then we'll really dwindle down later in the week. So again, only 2 picks today for you. But before we get to those, we did bounce back yesterday, as was hoped after an 0-3 day the day prior. While we get Danielle Collins through and we get Jannik Sinner through in straight sets, whether you back the -1.5 sets or the -4 games if your book didn't have the set option, it covered, and we are good. All right, so let's try and keep that momentum going and avoid going backwards again as we head into day 9, pardon me. But before we do that, make sure you're subscribed up to the Mayo Media Network. Like this video as well. Drop a comment with one of the picks you may like in the quarterfinals. And of course, if you listen in audio form, Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix, is your podcast for all of this in audio format. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe at whichever podcast app you happen to use. All right, 1 pick for the men, 1 pick for the women here for day 9. We'll begin with the men, and we're taking an over. If you've noticed at all, and you're someone who watches every one of these videos, you know I don't take a ton of totals. I primarily like underdog MLs. I do like myself taking sides and spreads. But this match to me has total overwritten all over it between Gael Monfils and Matteo Berrettini. I'm not keen to pick a side here, and I'll get into why in just a second. But the number's at over 39.5 at about -115. Depending on your book, you can get -115 anywhere to -120. And I think the over is a decent look here because, again, with a big server like Berrettini and with a match that, you'd expect to go over 3 sets, 40 games is not a lot to ask. I was on the verge of taking Cilic and Auger-Aliassime over. Of course, that was at 40.5, though. If that was a full game lower, again, in this range, a full game here is quite a big deal. So I see this match similar to that one. At least 4 sets, potential tie break, potential 7-5 sets along the way as well. If you see 4 sets with a 4-set match or more, 4 or 5 sets, and you see the match having a bunch of tight sets, then I definitely think that getting anything under 40 here is a decent play. I also don't want to pick a side for one reason. Matteo Berrettini is looking pretty good right now. It looks like he's over his stomach bug issues that might have been hurting him early on in the tournament where he was dropping sets in the first few rounds. And Gael Monfils, I still don't know if I trust him as an underdog here because I don't trust that body to hold up with that physical game style again in the quarters going up against the best server he's played so far. And we've seen his matches get tighter and tighter as the tournament's gone on, and that step up in competition continues to rise up. And Matteo Berrettini is a top 10 player. This is easily his biggest test against easily the biggest server. Consequently, the reason I don't want to be on Berrettini's side is this match is going to be played at night, right? So we're going to get the quick courts and the quicker balls. They might, without that sunlight and the heat, which also aids in the quickness of the courts, this one is going to be played later on. And if it slows conditions down even a little bit, that gives a little bit of an edge to Gael Monfils. So I want to stick with the top 10 player. I want to stick with the big server. I want to stick with the guy that's rounding into form, going up against someone who we don't know if they might still have physical issues. But at the same time, I do want to take that athletic player and back him to win at least a set and keep other ones close when the conditions might be a tad slower. So I think the over is definitely the play here. I'm not so keen on a side. I think there's question marks on both sides in different respects. And so the over 39.5 for me is the play. On to the women's pick. Laying 5.5 games in a quarterfinal in the late stages of a slam, where every player is in at least some decent form, can be risky. But Ash Barty -5.5 against Jessie Pegula at about -115, absolutely the play for me. Why? First off, Barty is in incredible form. There's no doubting that. She has not lost a match this year. And if we want to talk about, I'm not huge on trends influencing the match at hand, but if we can take a look at the matches we're referring to, maybe we can break it down and make it relevant to this one. So Ash Barty has won every single match she's played this year by at least 5 games. She won 5, she covered the 5.5, and in the other 3, she won by exactly 5 games. The 3 players she played against were she won by 5 games. Coco Gauff, elite. Anisimova, huge serve and in great form. And then Sofia Kenin, who's on kind of a comeback tour in 2022. Also worthwhile of noting, I suppose, is that the 2 of those 3 matches where she won by exactly 5 games were her first 2 matches of the year. In her last 6, the only person to cover the spread was Anisimova, who, of course, just has a bigger serve than Pegula. Not to say Pegula doesn't have a good serve, but she doesn't have the serve forehand power combo of Anisimova, and she's not in the same kind of great form that Anisimova was in. So I don't think that she's the one to keep this to keep things particularly close against an Ash Barty, who is in better form right now than she was at Wimbledon last year, which she ended up winning. The only concern here is a narrative-based one where she's made the second week of the Australian Open before, and this typically ends up being the stage where that hometown pressure, that home country pressure gets to her and she folds. I'm not seeing this match like last year's against Karolina Muchova as necessarily the prototype of player that would trouble her. Muchova was able to slice with her. She can slice and dice. She has a decent amount of power. She can redirect the ball very well and move Barty around. Pegula is more of a power player, but she doesn't have the same power as Barty. She hasn't really played someone with the slicing ability of Barty just yet. And Barty's serve is far bigger than a lot of serves she's played to this point. So I'm absolutely going to take the risk and go minus 5.5 games here for the favorite with Ash Barty at minus 115 and have her continue her role right into the semifinals. All right, that's it for day 7. There's also a couple other matches to watch tonight. Nothing I really want to be betting on in those matchups. So we'll keep it here for now. We'll be back for day 10 and preview the other 4 quarterfinal matchups in that video tomorrow. Thanks for watching.